So, after reviewing the Seat Ibiza facelift, I believe that it is just about enough for Seat to survive for now, hence why it has an average review. Can this car note, the Seat Arona facelift, get an average review or even better? Well, let's find out, but before we do, if you haven't watched the Seat Ibiza review, then I would go back and watch that first, and then this will follow on from that. There will be a link in the top right hand corner. Right then, welcome to Everything Cars and More. So, starting with the design at the front of the Seat Arona, and it follows the same trend as the Ibiza. To start with, we get this bigger grille design with a bigger mesh pattern, but this one has a sharper edge to it. The headlights are now also new and sharper and look exactly the same as the Seat Ibiza with its eyebrow triangle daytime running lights. This does give it a unique look. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section below, and whilst you are at it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Moving lower down at the front, we can see we get a big central air vent with a big mesh pattern to it, and this is now where the fog lights hide. This removes the weird pod light fog lights that the previous facelift version had, and they did look a bit out of place on that one in my opinion. The side vents are connected to the central air vents though this time, and they do look decent and have proper vents in them too. The front end does also look quite off-road like and rugged too, which I do quite like. Moving around to the side of the Arona, and there's nothing really to report about, but we do get some new colour and some wheel options too. And these wheel options do have a much more rugged design to them, which again I do quite like. It also looks quite different too, and we also get some new colour roof options, which is quite nice. Moving around to the back of the Arona, and unlike the Ibiza, the Arona doesn't have any changes around the back. To start with though, the bumper design is actually the same as it has always been back in 2018. The central part did change in 2021 though, but on this 2026 model, it has been made slightly darker just like the Arona and FR badges. The tail lights are the same as before, but do look quite premium. Overall though, it does look like it has a rugged design to it, and I do think the Arona will sell just as well as it did before and as it always has done. Right, let's have a look to see what the engine and gearbox options you can have with the new Seat Arona facelift. So, the engine range for the Seat Arona facelift sort of mimics the Ibiza facelift. Let's start with the base model first. This uses the usual 1 litre turbo petrol unit which has 94 brake horsepower. This can be mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox powering the front wheels. 0 to 62 is dealt with in 11.4 seconds, which isn't too bad, but don't expect it to set any land speed records anytime soon. The next version is the same 1 litre turbo petrol unit, but this time the power has been increased to 114 brake horsepower. This can either be had with a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed DSG automatic gearbox, and 0 to 62 time for this engine is 10.1 seconds, depending on what gearbox you go for. Both do power the front wheels though. The final engine, which I wish the Ibiza got, is the 1.5 litre turbo petrol unit which has 148 brake horsepower. But this is only available with a 7-speed DSG automatic gearbox powering the front wheels. 0 to 62 time is dealt with in 8.3 seconds, which is actually quite good for a small SUV and quite quick. Just like the Ibiza, there will also be a pair of mild hybrid engines coming to the Arona in 2027. We don't know what they are yet, but we will make sure to keep you updated when that information arrives. The price of the new Seat Arona facelift starts at £23,105, which isn't too bad and is cheaper than most of its rivals, which is good. Right, let's have a look to see what the interior looks like. So, climbing inside the new Seat Arona facelift, and just like the Ibiza, there isn't really that many big changes to talk about. Really, the main change is a few new graphics on the infotainment system and the instrument cluster, as well as some new trim panels and materials. This means we get a decently designed dashboard with a shelf design. The infotainment system is the older style unit though, but it does work quite well, and it has been upgraded so you can now have a premium sound system, just like what the Ibiza can have. We also have the same steering wheel as before, as well as the same physical climate control buttons and physical gear shifter, which is quite rare nowadays, especially with this proper handbrake for great handbrake turns, but you might not want to do that in an SUV. Right, let's have a look to see what the rear seats are like. So, climbing into the back of the Seat Arona Facelift, and really it is the same as the Ibiza, but slightly better in some areas. Well, leg room and headroom is good and almost class leading, which is great. Also, the rear seats are quite comfortable, but with the same as the Ibiza, you don't get an armrest like you do in some of the other cars in this class, and you also don't get any USB-C ports, unlike the rest of the others in its class. There isn't even any USB-A ports, which is a shame. There is also a lot of plastic too, which is a shame, and yes, I do understand that this is a cheap base model SUV in their lineup, but other cars in this class do have better materials in the back. Right, with that rant over, let's have a look to see what the boot is like. So, opening the boot to the Arona Facelift, and just like the Ibiza Facelift, it has a class leading boot size, which stands in at 400 litres with the seats up. If you fold the seats down 60-40 split however, then this extends to 1280 litres. You also get a flat floor all the way through, as well as space underneath the false floor too. So definitely usable then, which is good. So in summary then, what do I think of the new Seat Arona Facelift? Well, it is a good looking car with a well built interior, and it is very practical. Now, I would recommend this car, especially if you want an SUV with German build quality. The Arona and even the Ibiza do have their downsides now, especially with the rear space area, and it is starting to show its age in some areas, considering the original cars came out in 2017 and 2018. What is good now is that they haven't actually aged as bad as some other cars that are a similar age. I can easily see these cars extending past 2030. What is most important though is it's not about the reviews, it's about what customers want. And most people won't use the USB-C ports in the back of a car. Most people also won't care about the cheaper plastics or a slower infotainment system, as they will use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. What customers care about nowadays is usability and the price tag, and that's what makes these two Seat cars the best. So I can easily see the Arona and Ibiza still being really good sellers, and maybe even better than before. So, what do you think of this car then? Leave a comment below, and whilst you're at it, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to Everything Cars and More. I'll see you in the next video.